I think framing the conversation we are about to have this afternoon can be very helpful. We will talk a lot about sustainability and resiliency, two words that are used a lot and have different meanings to different people. The accepted definitions of these words are a good foundation for where we can start. Now, when we think about sustainability, we all think about it a lot of folks in this room anyway, from a renewable standpoint, a renewable energy standpoint, and the environment. But today I want you to think about sustainability, the definition of sustainability that goes like this: the ability to be maintained at a certain rate or level. The ability to be maintained at a certain rate or level. And when we talk about resiliency, I want you to think about this definition: an ability to recover from or adjust to easily to adversity or change. We'll also talk about building upon our momentum. And I think it's helpful to think of some of the synonyms for momentum: motion, force, velocity, impetus, thrust, drive, and my personal favorite, energy. And sustainability and resiliency are two of the biggest issues that we face both in the public sector but in the private sector. But they also, in my opinion, offer the greatest opportunities. I've spent my entire career trying to identify obstacles and then trying to turn those obstacles into opportunities and then capitalizing on those opportunities to the value of Nevadans. As we engage in this conversation this afternoon and later tonight with our friends afterwards over some cocktails, when the real conversations start taking place, let's think of what obstacles face us and how we can turn those into opportunities. Let us try to recognize where we personally or within the organizations that we work with or that we represent, where we have made progress on sustainability, on resiliency, and try to build upon that momentum. If you're in the private sector, try to recognize who in the public sector can partner with you to leverage your efforts around sustainability and help you build upon that momentum. And also try to recognize how you best can support the public sector and how it can be the most effective in helping you build upon that momentum. If you're in the public sector, try to do the same thing, but also make sure that you are thinking about how the decisions that you make or don't make and the policies that you create or implement, how they affect your partners in the private sector and how they affect your constituents and how they affect their ability to build upon our common goals of sustainability. We should also try to identify if our institutions and our organizational structures, whether they are private or public, are themselves sustainable and resilient. I'm going to use two examples. And one is the legislature, which I'm very familiar with. I lobbied the legislature for 15 years before I ran for office and was in the state assembly and then the state senate, and have chaired a pretty heavy-duty committee and seen kind of the inner workings of how all of that is. And using that example, think of our Nevada legislature. It's a citizen legislature. That means we all have a job, hopefully. And it's also very part-time. It meets 120 days every other year, of which you get paid 60 of those days. Makes zero sense. And so what you have no staff, you have no resources, and everything that you do, whether it be flying to a conference in another state to learn how you can better serve your constituents and be a better policymaker, where you can learn about sustainability, everything you do in that office comes from the funding of donors. Think about that, right? The funding of donors. That's not smart. Governor's office is another example. The governor's office, underfunded, understaffed, low, non-competitive wages, and the smallest governor's office in the country. We're not the smallest state by far. So, ask yourself, does that model serve Nevadans? Does it serve your community or your industry? Is it sustainable or resilient? Does it help you build upon your sustainability momentum? It was just tested, and my answer is no, it does not. And so we need to think about our institutions and think about our structures and think about how that can help us build upon sustainability and if it is in fact sustainable. In the business that I'm in, sustainability and resiliency are achieved by having a diversity of resources. In the energy business, a diversity of resources provide the best resiliency and sustainability. Does your board, does your staff reflect that diversification of resources? And do our elected officials reflect that diversity of background, of life experience, of knowledge? Do we have a diversity of opinions and ideas in our business, in our government agencies, or in our elected bodies? The intersections of social, economic, and environmental sustainability are not always obvious. The conversations we will have this afternoon, and again later tonight, will give us all ideas on how they do in fact overlap and intersect, and how we can take that understanding home with us to build upon our momentum and seize upon opportunities to create a more sustainable Nevada. Due largely to the hard work of many of the people in this room, just think about all of the progress we have made and where we now lead on certain areas when it comes to sustainability. The diversification of our economy. We've done an amazing job of diversifying our economy over the last several years. Up north, renewable energy, energy storage, and transmission. We are a leader in the nation on all three of those things, and we have nothing but plenty of runway out in front of us to continue to lead on all of those things. Green buildings and energy efficiency. Food waste. Think of the gaming industry alone, how they lead on being the biggest and most complex, the entertainment and resorts industry in our state, the most biggest and complex types of businesses and buildings in the country, and how they're leading on green buildings and food waste and energy efficiency and water conservation. While we are in a horrible drought, a drought that threatens our very existence as a state, we have become the most water efficient community in the country. So while there's more work to be done there, we lead on those issues. Here are just a few examples of issues where we've made some progress, but work remains to be done. Human trafficking, underemployment, wages, childcare. That's social sustainability, economic sustainability, diversification in Southern Nevada, revenue structures. We have a horribly flawed revenue system in the state of Nevada. We can still attract more folks to our state to visit our sporting events, to visit our amazing resorts and restaurants and gaming, to visit our outdoor recreation. And then pandemics, natural disasters, unforeseen events, both past, present, and future. We need to be more resilient and sustainable around those events. And then environmentally, wildfires, pollution, air quality, severe drought, energy reliability and affordability, man-made climate disruption. These are things that we have so much work to do on, yet so many opportunities exist in the policy space, but also in the business space to address those obstacles. And I can't leave here without talking about things like homelessness, housing availability, affordability, public education, healthcare, transportation. These are things that we have so much work to do in our state, but again, create opportunities for all of us in this room.